Mary Talks Relationships presents Toxic Positivity, when smiling becomes a mask. We live in a world that worships happy faces. Everything must look calm, grateful, aligned. The smile has become a moral rule. Workplaces demand good energy. Couples talk about positive vibes. Parents tell their kids to look on the bright side. Bit by bit, smiling turned from a gesture of kindness into a social command. And that quiet pressure carries a hidden form of violence. Smiling isn't wrong, it connects and soothes, but when it's required, it starts to hide rather than heal. The order to stay positive doesn't bring peace, it suppresses truth. Behind many peaceful faces lies the exhaustion of pretending to be fine, as if showing weakness were a betrayal. A woman who lost her husband says people admired her strength because she didn't cry. In truth, she was numb. Another, after a breakup, posts daily affirmations. I choose joy. Everything happens for a reason. She wants to believe them, but each post pushes her further from herself. Positivity in that form isolates instead of healing. At work, the same logic rules. We must keep smiling, even under absurd pressure. Fatigue becomes energy management. Disagreement turns into lack of positivity. Emotional honesty is replaced by performance. Behind the polite tone of resilience, people slowly lose the right to say they're tired, sad, or angry. At home, the same reflex spreads. Couples avoid hard talks to keep it light. Families confuse peace with silence. Love becomes politeness. And under all that gentleness, relationships hollow out. A bond that can't carry pain becomes decoration. The forced smile is a soft kind of violence. It denies reality under the mask of harmony. It demands that people stay smooth, easy, untroubling. But a real human being always disturbs a little. To erase tears, fatigue, or anger is to erase the truth of the face itself. A world without honest faces becomes theatre, well played but lifeless. Social media amplifies it. The word gratitude sits under perfect sunsets, while the eyes above it look tired. It's not deceit, it's obedience. People fear that showing pain will make them unlovable. Forced positivity isn't too much joy, it's too little love. Those who never feel safe enough to be sad learn to perform happiness until the mask sticks. That's the real cruelty of toxic positivity. It makes joy a duty and sorrow a shame. It replaces compassion with control. It says, choose light, without ever asking who will stay with you in the dark. It demands emotional perfection, and when we can't reach it, we blame ourselves for being human. Beneath the surface of smiles hides a generation terrified of falling apart. We've lost permission to be unwell, to be real. The forced smile, beneath its politeness, is censorship. It says, don't disturb. But what it silences is the very thing that heals. Honesty, vulnerability, presence. A society that can't look at pain has lost touch with truth. Yet only truth gives birth to joy. The face that dares not to smile isn't broken, it's free. And that freedom is where genuine happiness begins. Our civilization has declared war on pain, not to understand it, but to erase it. Suffering is no longer a message, it's a problem. The modern world has no patience with grief, doubt, or fatigue. You must feel good always when something's wrong. Depression is a defect, anger a dysfunction, sadness an inconvenience. The right to suffer has been revoked. This isn't compassion, it's control. It's the dictatorship of comfort. We're told that life should be smooth, that every crack needs fade. It's a lie, and so often that we stop noticing. People no longer say I'm hurting, they say I'm working on myself. Pain must be reframed as growth. Wounds must be brief, clean, and inspiring. Everywhere, the same phrases echo. Don't be negative. Everything happens for a reason. Focus on the good. They sound kind, but they're poison. What they really mean is, your pain makes me uncomfortable. Please hide it. The result is a silent epidemic of shame. Those who suffer learn to act fine, to post smiles, to speak of learning experiences instead of despair. Misery is tolerated only if it's productive. Workplaces have become temples of this new religion. You must stay resilient, solution-oriented, energized. To admit exhaustion is professional suicide. So people fake motivation, swallow anger, and call it positivity. The system rewards those who smile while breaking. Pain management replaces justice. Even love obeys the same rule. Partners can't be sad too long. You're bringing me down. I can't handle your energy. Empathy is replaced by self-protection. One leaves, calling it self-care. But care without courage isn't love. It's fear disguised as wellness. Online, the censorship is total. Sadness must be aesthetic. Cry beautifully, then caption it with hope. Draw The wellness economy converts despair into subscription, meditation apps, therapy hacks, motivational podcasts. It's not healing, it's sedation. We're not comforted, we're neutralized. But pain is not a malfunction. It's meaning breaking through the noise. A person who has never suffered doesn't know what they love. To feel pain is to be alive enough to care. It's proof that something matters. A world without suffering would be a world without depth, clean, bright, and sterile. Modern positivity has become emotional fascism. It demands smiles as proof of worth, calm as proof of success. It tells us to move on before we've even buried our head. We call that maturity. It's cowardice. The soul atrophies when denied the right to hurt. Only those who face pain without anesthesia find freedom. They cry, and their tears don't weaken them. They clarify. They rage, and their anger restores their dignity. They stop pretending. Pain is not the opposite of joy. It's its root. The modern world can outlaw suffering all it wants. It can drown it in affirmations and algorithms. But as long as one human heart remains capable of breaking, truth will survive. Because the day we stop hurting will not be the day we are healed. It will be the day we are dead. After banning pain, our age has emptied joy of all substance. It wanted a world without friction, without tears, without tragedy, a world where everything can be managed, softened, explained. But a human being isn't made for comfort. He is made for intensity, for risk, for the inner tension that gives way to existence. Life only becomes real when it costs something. Whoever refuses pain also refuses joy, because the same openness allows both. The human heart is not a space to be secure, it's a place to be risked. Whoever forbids himself to suffer forbids himself to love, to lose, to begin again. He protects himself from pain by renouncing greatness. His life becomes careful but inert. He avoids being hurt, but he stops being alive. Fear keeps him intact, but it also keeps him empty. He no longer aches, yet he no longer hopes. Joy does not arise from comfort, it comes from truth. It begins when a person stops lying about his life. It has nothing to do with success or ease, but with clarity. When everything has been lost, when appearances collapse, when nothing remains to defend, something indestructible appears. That is joy, not an emotion, not a belief, but the steadiness that comes from facing what is real. Picture a man who has been struck by loss, failure, and loneliness. Instead of running, he stays. He looks at what he feared to see, his mistakes, his illusions, his weakness, and in that moment of nakedness, he understands. What he called pain was not the end, but the beginning of truth. He discovers that joy doesn't come from being weak, but from having faced everything. True joy is the fruit of moral courage. It does not flatter, it affirms. It doesn't erase pain, it gives it meaning. It doesn't remove the weight of the world, it teaches how to carry it. The person who can say, I have suffered but I did not run away, knows a form of joy that no one can imitate, because it no longer depends on anything. The modern mistake is to confuse joy with comfort. We believe we must feel good to be happy, when in fact we must be true to be alive. Well-being can be produced, joy cannot. It doesn't rely on circumstances but on integrity. That's why it's often found where everything seems lost, in illness, in forgiveness, in quiet duty. It doesn't shine, it endures. The heart that refuses truth dries up. It feels no pain, but it has no depth. It knows neither the reach of great sorrows, nor the fullness of great joys. It walks through life like a spectator, careful to avoid whatever could change it. It mistakes quiet for peace, caution for wisdom, but peace is never born of avoidance. It's born of honest confrontation with reality. Truth makes joy possible because it frees. It breaks the spell of appearances, fear, and self-justification. It allows a person to exist without disguise, to stand firm without calculation. Joy, then, is no longer an emotion, but a strength, a hidden gravity that orders the soul. It marks the lives of those who no longer need to please, only to persevere. Those who have understood this no longer seek to escape pain. They recognize it as the price of clarity. They know that lasting joy requires a victory over fear. They do not retreat into comfort. They choose truth, even when it hurts, and that fidelity makes them free. Their joy no longer depends on what happens, but on who they have become. The modern world prizes balance. Joy ignores balance. It demands fullness. It belongs to those who accept to be wounded by life without withdrawing from it. It grows in those who no longer fear loss, because they have chosen to love without condition. The person who avoids suffering ends up with nothing. He thinks he is protecting himself, but he's condemning himself to emptiness. The one who faces the truth even when it burns rediscovers total joy, because joy is not born from what we spare ourselves. It is born from what we face. It appears only in those who have looked reality in the eye and not turned away. True joy is not calmness, it's the triumph of truth over fear. It doesn't make life easy, it makes it bearable. It doesn't console, it affirms. It says not everything is saved, but everything can be loved. And in that sentence, everything can be loved, lies the whole greatness of man. Nothing is impossible for those who choose to love.